Hello everyone. Are we having sound there? Because I seem to have some problems here. Can someone tell me if the sound is okay there? Sorry, I shall have to check this up. It's frozen. Okay. Why is it frozen? Both video and sound are frozen. Okay. Oh dear. Hmm. Has it come back? From what I can see here, it is working. So, okay, good. All right. Thank you. Sorry for that. I that we had to close with a little bit of a confusion. Otherwise, it's not. Okay, so now since I do not have the feedback there, if anything goes wrong, please just message so I know that the sound has stopped or the video has stopped. Okay. So uh, when we talk about AI, there's a combination of hope and fear as far as the healthcare workers go, like us. But there's a lot of hope that it can use its great powers to bring about better diagnosis, especially as far as we are concerned in the field of dentistry. And oral pathology and oral medicine is, of course, the clinical and the early detection of the oral potentially malignant disorders. Now, this is a very important thing for us, and we are always looking for ways of improving on this. How far really has AI gone in this? Today, that's what we're going to find out in a very short lecture. It's a recorded lecture from the conference that we had in 2022. That was the International Oral Diseases Case Presentation Conference. Anyway, it's a nice and short lecture where you will hear about the actual experiences of two studies that were done. And Right. If it is your first time here, well, I'm Dr. Mandana Donahue. I'm the founder of Oral Pathology 360, which is a community of oral and maxillofacial diagnosticians. That is a combination of oral pathology, oral medicine, and oral radiology on the web, where we hope to promote the sciences. Now, earlier on, we had the basics of artificial intelligence in one video where we talked about what it was, how it came about, how it could be used. And that video, the link is there in the description. You can always catch up with that, and it updates you in the basics of how it works. And that one was a full length video, and it's got chapters, so you can just hop through the chapters as you wish. Now, coming to today, of course, today you have seen the details. It's the state of artificial intelligence, okay, in clinical detection of oral potentially malignant disorders by Dr. Alan Silva. So I will now stop talking. We will watch the lecture and then we will come back and discuss it.
Dr. Alan Roger Santos Silva holds the titles of Specialist in Oral Medicine, Oral and Maxillofacial Pathology, Habilitation in Hospital Dentistry, and Laser Therapy. He currently holds the posts of Associate Professor in the Oral Diagnosis Department at the University of Campinas, Brazil. His 250 published papers speak of his research expertise in oral tumorigenesis, with a specific emphasis on oral cancer and oral toxicity from cancer treatment. He serves on the editorial board of many renowned dental journals and is a member of several distinguished dental councils. It is an honor to welcome Dr. Santos Silva to deliver his lecture.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alan, and I'm speaking from the University of Campinas in São Paulo State, Brazil. And today we will be representing our dental school, which has been actually collaborating with our colleagues from the University of Sheffield in the UK for several years now. And more recently, we have also been working with the use of artificial intelligence tools for the clinical detection of oral potentially malignant disorders. So today, I will be talking about the problematic of oral cancer, and it is important to anticipate that I have no potential conflict of interest to report when it comes to this particular presentation. It is also important to mention that this presentation is based on two recently published studies from the University of Sheffield in the UK, and we had this opportunity to collaborate with the group of Dr. Ali Kuran for the performance and the development of research data in this particular field. These are the contents of our presentation today. And in terms of background, it is also super important to mention that oral squamous cell carcinoma is a major international public health issue. And recently, Latin America and the Caribbean has been inserted into those alarming hotspots of incidence and mortality, together with more well-known hotspots area in this sense, such as Asia and Eastern Europe. In addition to this already complex scenario, it is important to mention that there is this increasing trend of oral squamous cell carcinoma among young, non-smoking, and non-drinking patients worldwide. One of the nasty parts of this problematic is the fact that most of the patients will be diagnosed only at very late stages of disease progression, leading to very poor prognosis, high mortality levels, and a very negative quality of life outcome following treatment, as well as very negative psychosocial outcomes, and also a very high economic burden, not only for the patients, but also for the medical facilities that treat these patients. Well, as I said before, there are several recent publications showing that Latin America should also be considered a hotspot for oral cancer incidence and mortality. And this is a heat map taken from the GlobalCan, showing that unfortunately Brazil is one of the most important hotspots for oral cancer mortality. And these 6 images were recently taken from patients diagnosed at our oral medicine outpatient service, showing that indeed, unfortunately, most oral squamous cell carcinoma patients are diagnosed in late clinical stages of disease in our country, and why not say in many other countries of South America and Latin America in general. Well, we know that this is a very multifactorial issue, but some of the most important barriers when it comes to the early detection of oral cancer are the fact that incipient oral cancer lesions, as well as OPMDs, are frankly asymptomatic, and they tend to mimic inflammatory oral conditions. Also, we know that the public awareness is poor for oral cancer, and even among professionals, awareness is paradoxically very poor. On top of these points, another challenge is the fact that frontline workforce professionals for diagnosing oral squamous cell carcinoma are represented by very small groups, and also these groups have a tendency to be distributed in a very heterogeneous way worldwide. I'm talking about mainly oral medicinists, or pathologists, and and head and neck surgeons specialists. And Although it's been nearly 20 years now that the American Cancer Society first recommended the inclusion of oral cavity examination as part of the national early detection of cancer, especially in patients with more than 40 years old of age. Oral clinical examination is still considered not perfect when it comes to its ability to diagnose incipient oral squamous cell carcinoma lesions or OPMDs. We know that exposing the oral mucosa requires technique. Also, recognizing incipient lesions or OPMDs require specific specialized skills. And according to several publications, including this recent one from the American Dental Association, the techniques currently available to improve these limitations of the oral mucosa inspection present only very poor potential to add clinicians, especially in non-specialized clinical settings. This is a short video showing how the oral clinical examination is performed ideally. Well, as I said before, it is evident, according to several publications, that we do need to work aiming to develop new technologies to add early oral squamous cell carcinoma detection, as we currently see in many other medical specialties, including computer-supported incipient cancer detection through colonoscopy. And we have different studies from different world zones showing that the automated, incipient cancer detection is a reality in the clinical setting of gastroenterology, for example. And we're not saying that there are many clinical trials as well using similar approach for the detection of early skin carcinomas. So again, when it comes to the incipient diagnosis of oral squamous cell carcinoma, we are running late in terms of technologies. And specifically talking about secondary prevention of oral squamous cell carcinoma, we must focus our efforts in better diagnosing and better managing this complex group of diseases known as oral potentially malignant disorders, or OPMDs. We know that most of the oral squamous cell carcinomas will be preceded by OPMDs, and according to this very recent WHO Collaborating Century for Oral Cancer, there are nearly 11 different diseases subtypes that are within the scope of OPMDs. And again, there's no transformation biomarker clinically validated so far, and the prediction of transformation risk is currently based on a very simple clinical pathological correlation, which is based on very subjective scoring systems. We understand that for the purposes of this presentation, oral leukoplakia is going to be a priority, especially because of its increased global prevalence and also its consequent clinical relevance. So all the efforts of our groups were concentrated on oral leukoplakia. In addition to these comments, we have to remember that the treatment of oral leukoplakia may be considered challenging because of this lack of well-established clinical and biomarkers that I mentioned before that are not able to classify patients more prone to have their leukoplakias turn into malignant lesions. And there's this also a very high rate of recurrence, especially when treating these large oral leukoplakias as seen in this patient from our service. Also, there's clear evidence in the literature, and these are recent patients seen also in our facility. We have to consider that oral leukoplakias are also affecting younger patients with no known risk factors. So this is why several researchers have been working to develop AI tools in the diagnosis of OPMDs, and this is certainly why we have to work towards the development of new technologies in the field of AI and OPMDs. In the first publications within this context, most of the researchers have focused in using AI tools for whole slide imaging study. As we recently demonstrated in this publication, there is a quite significant number of studies using AI tools to better predict malignant transformation, but merely from a histopathological standing point. Although super important and very relevant to support the decisions of our pathologists, we were missing AI tools applied to the clinical context itself. And therefore, more recently, our group published, which should be considered the very first study of AI tools directed to OPMDs. Again, this was led by Dr. Ali Kuran, his colleagues from the University of Warwick, as well as our group here at Piracicaba Dental School, collaborating with our cases and experience. So in terms of methods, we basically trained a convolutional neural network system to classify images from oral mucosa in two different outcomes: normal looking oral mucosa versus suspicious oral mucosas affected by oral leukoplakia. We basically trained very modern CNNs used in previously published studies of cancer in human beings, but never in the oral mucosa, as I mentioned before. And we used different validation techniques, as well as we relied on very modern outcomes for diagnosis, precision, sensitivity, and specificity. Excuse me. This is the overview of our model pipeline. So in terms of inputs, our data set was composed of patients from the UK as well as patients from Brazil. And this is a recommendation when working with AI development tools. I mean, patients with different genetic backgrounds. And as outputs, we have used class activation maps, or heat maps, as we may use the term, to understand how the CNNs were classifying clinical images as suspicious or normal looking appearances. So as I mentioned before, our data set was composed with high resolution clinical images from our patients in Brazil, as well as patients from the University of Sheffield, organized by Dr. Ali Kuran. And here we can see some of the clinical images that we inserted in this preclinical study, and showing how we did part of the pre-processing analysis. Well, in terms of results, it is safe to mention that we obtained quite high accuracy levels, and also our F1 score when it comes to specificity and reliability of our model was also exceptionally high, reaching nearly 98%. Again, here we can see very clearly that this should be considered a reliable model for the identification of OPMDs, particularly oral leukoplakias, because we can see in these heat maps that the hotspots in red were quite coincident with the more significant oral leukoplakia areas. As recommended in terms of discussion for AI studies, comparing our results with the human performance, I'm bringing here results recently published by Professor Keith Hunter from the University of Liverpool in the UK, showing through this meta-analysis that the human ability to perform oral clinical examination in the specific context of OPMDs is of approximately 85% in terms of specificity. So once again, our CNN-based models were quite good in terms of specificity when compared to the human performance recently revised and reviewed by Professor Hunter. Well, in conclusion, we originally demonstrated the feasibility of a deep convolutional neural network-based oral lesion classification system for clinical images of oral leukoplakia from 2 different countries, the UK and Brazil. Whereas there are several limitations in this pioneer study, such as the small cohort of patients and the lack of combination of the inputs, adding not only clinical images, but also histology features, patients' demographic and clinical pathological features, and so on. At the moment, we are working to develop automated segmentation methods rather than manual methods, as we did in this first approach. And when taking our results together and comparing with the literature, we should work together aiming to train an AI system based on a data set of millions of oral mucosa images labeled by specialists, as we did in our publication, as either health or disease-affected clinical samples. In addition, as we have seen in dermatology, gastroenterology, and many other areas, we should try to work together to develop a real-time based oral clinical examinations coupled with AI systems. And I take the liberty of mentioning that Dr. Ali Kuran is working very hard towards this achievement, as he recently was awarded a very relevant grant specifically to explore the use of AI technologies for the detections of OPMDs and oral cancer based on real-time examination. So let's keep an eye on his very significant work in this AI scenario. This is a list of ongoing studies here locally at our facility, trying to explore our institutional server, which hosts thousands of intraoral images from several different sorts of oral cancer, as well as panoramic radiographs, whole slide images. And we have been collaborating with the University of Sheffield and other colleagues locally towards the development of AI tools for oral diseases. So take work, not home, take work messages. AI is definitely here, as we could see. This is a very fast-moving field, and the clinical adoption is likely to occur worldwide as well in the dentistry setting. As shown, CNNs are feasible for detecting oral leukoplakia, at least from the clinical images standing point. AI may improve the quality of oral cavity examination and mucosal inspection in the field, but never, absolutely never replacing the specialist judgment. And most importantly, clinical validation is pending. I mean, we have no RCTs using computer-aided systems for the diagnosis and management of OPMDs, at least so far. So once again, thank you very much, Dr. Mandana, for your hard work in the organization of this virtual conference. Well done. And again, thank you to Dr. Ali Kuran and all his partners at the University of Sheffield in the UK for giving us this chance to collaborate in these studies.
Right, that was a nice lecture. I am sorry if some of you had difficulty with the slides. If that persists by tomorrow after 24 hours, YouTube does further processing. If that persists, what I will do is I will take down this video and upload a high resolution video. But if that happens, remember the link will change. So, of course, I will update everyone if I do that on all the regular routes that I do or all the ways that I do. Dr. Gauri is asking. So, we have a lot of you with us, and let me say Dr. Nasser, Dr. Nandini, Dr. Neetu, um, Dr. Afrin, Dr. Wen, Dr. Bhageshri, Dr. Vivek, and Dr. Gauri, who has a question. Well, I cannot tell you very sure because, of course, Dr. Allen is not right now with me. This was just a recording. But I do not think outside of, there are parts of, let me bring this out. From what I have found out and what I know is that there are parts where it is the studies have gone ahead and come up with some proof. So, like for example, in lung cancer and breast cancer, there's a lot of work and there's considerable proof for that. And also, mostly on the imaging side, not on the histopathology side. Radiology seems to be way ahead of us, as far as, of course, general body radiology goes, is way ahead of histopathology. So they are doing a lot of work that is accepting AI. On histopathology, I don't think we have enough proof as yet, and certainly not in the oral and maxillofacial. We need to do a lot more studies before we can use it for patient management. Is my take on that. Let's see what everyone else has said. Dr. Nasser says digital pathology. Yes, digital pathology, I understand. What do you mean by digital pathology is only basically my understanding of digital pathology, Dr. Nasser, is that we one is this whole slide imaging, and then we can get second opinions from others depending on who's connected to it. Where I don't know whether we are using as yet AI in that. Let's see what Dr. Nasser has to say. Mm, yes, welcome, Dr. Radhika. Uh, yes, in consultations also we use digital pathology. Yes, but I do not believe we still have AI really checking those out. You're welcome, Dr. Gauri. So, anything else? Yes, there is a long way to go, Dr. Radhika. Long way to go in for AI. Actually, even for the head and neck, or for the, let me be more specific, the oral and maxillofacial radiology also is basically, I think we, because all of this comes to mostly us. Oral and maxillofacial is us within the dental diagnostic sciences. So somehow I think we are just not really stayed up to date with that and not moved ahead. This could also be really, I think, partly because the funding for us is really a lot more limited than the funding for our medical colleagues. I'm sorry. So that is also hampering, and the numbers, the cases, everything is lot more limited. So that puts us a little on the back foot. Although, if you really see, um, I always say that on the oral and maxillofacial or on the dentistry side, really, we are a lot more adept at technology. So I don't know why we are somehow lagging behind on this. Dr. Ashwini Deshpande. Oral and maxillofacial radiology also has a while before AI is used. Yes, absolutely. I don't think it is just the any one. I think it's all the three diagnostic sciences of dentistry. We are lagging behind on this. We need to catch up and we need to move. But if you watch the earlier video which I talked about, the one which was about AI, the use of AI, there's a lot of things that are very basically required. One is a lot of content, lot of material. You need to have the base material to train these. artificial intelligence settings, and you need a lot of processing power. Although today you don't need to buy that processing power yourself. If you're doing the study, you can actually get it from, you can get connected to institutions who provide it as a backup, and who will also give you the technical backup that's required, or technical consultation that's required. It was all covered in that video. It's, the link is there in the description of the current video, so you can have a look at that. And it really helps, especially if we all keep on sharing our content. A lot of our images, if we could even do it where we use them, maybe where we upload them on the net with Creative Commons license that allows others to use it, maybe for non commercial, you can choose a non commercial. So but that makes the content available, as long as we keep holding on to our images like we own them, which we actually don't, because they are the property of the patient. But as long as we do that, well, this is not going to happen. Dr. Nasser, at the same time with the whole slide scanning digital path. Yes, correct. Yes, that the whole slide scanning really makes such a content, such an amazing volume of content available, and that is where AI can really use it. There are already quite a lot of systems available. I think we had earlier on also on the channel was Dr. Rajendra. He runs the Path Presenter. Now, Path Presenter has a lot of digital slides, which are whole slides that are available, in fact, for teaching, open with to everybody. But you can also, your institution can also become a part of that, and upload your slides in your own library, or also share it. So these are all there, but of course, for a lot of us, even access, actually, Dr. Nasser, to the whole um, to the microscopes or to the systems that can do the whole slide scanning is still limited in a lot of countries, including India. I don't know how it is in the US, but whether every institution in the US now has access to whole slide imaging, I don't really know, but here we definitely don't have. Oh, Ranganathan sir is with us. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Glad you found it interesting. And right. So, any other suggestions, thoughts? I think really, and this is my uh, my suggestion, my thought, and I'm no expert, but I really feel the way forward is for us to begin sharing. Seriously, very important. Yes, yes. So that is Dr. Ranganathan saying two critical issues, whether it's reactive versus OPMD. That is, I think, one of the main important things, especially when we are thinking of just looking at clinical picture, at the clinical, basically without the histopathology, which this was about. Although, frankly, sometimes even with histopathology, it gets a little tough. So let's see. Yes. Identifying the initial lesion, the earliest, is really the gold standard, and it's really we, that I guess is where truly we can, if we can train the AI to find maybe the minutest changes that our eyes and our vision may not be capable of catching. That would be amazing. There's a lot of hope in this. I think there's a lot of hope and a lot of possibility in this regard. uh, I hope all of you share that. And that's really the way forward. Any more comments? No, I think that's we are done. We do not have any more comments, so we should move on to closing for the day. Sometimes I make this so small I can't see what I'm doing. Okay. Right. So, one of the things I would request everyone to do before going away is that help Oral Pathology 360 to grow. There are many ways you can contribute financially, you can contribute literally by with your ideas, whether it's a suggestion about a topic, whether it's a suggestion about a speaker. And today you can now even contribute by submitting a crossword, which we will put up in the weekly crossword section. And of course, you just visit the website and look around. Again, the link to the website also is in the description. There's a lot that will be happening constantly on the website, including the fact that we have now an events calendar from where you can find out everything. And really just share the content, comment, interact with it. If you just like a video, click the share button and share it with someone saying why you like it. It really makes a difference. And of course, if you like today's video, also please put a like, don't forget that. And subscribe if you have still not subscribed to the channel. It's all what really matters and what makes a difference to what we are doing. And right, if you do want to contact us, well, there is a website, there is our email address, there is info at oralpathology360.com. There is, of course, also you can put it mandana at oralpathology360.com, which will come directly to me. And there is all our social media handles almost everywhere. It is at Oral Pathology 360. So whether you go to YouTube, you go to LinkedIn, you go to Insta, or you go to Facebook, and then click, put in at Oral Pathology 360, you will come to our pages and you can connect with us. Let me see. There seems to be a. Sorry. What is this? Okay. Dr. Vivek. Is the imaging technology being used by any of the institutions in India? Can I contact them? I really don't know, but um, I had heard about someone, but now I cannot remember. I will try and get in touch with you if I, when I remember who that was. Yes, I think one or two institutions were working on it, so I will get back with you to you, Dr. Vivek. Yes. Right. So that is about contacting us, and we have come to the last, to the end of 2022. I have to say, as far as our sessions go, we have come to the end of 2022. I thank you all for staying with us and for supporting us through this year. It's been a great year. We have had so many lectures, and I will try and send a wrap up mail so that everyone knows how everything has happened in 2022. But there's a lot more waiting after the new year. And well, and normally this is where I say see you next week. So now I'm going to say see you next year. And be well, have a blessed new year, and we'll catch up soon. With that, I'll say bye bye.